Good morning friends, I am Atiqur Rahman. I am a professor at the Department of Geography, Faculty of Natural Sciences, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today we are going to understand GIS database creation, a module which is very important. We all know what is GIS. I will also try to talk something about GIS. In this specifically we are trying to focus, we are trying to understand how we can create GIS database, which is very important for analysis, planning, decision making process. So the broader topic which we are going to understand what is GIS, what are different components of GIS, what are different GIS data sets, what are different GIS data sources, and what are different methods and techniques for creation of GIS data sources. So within these framework we will try to see how we can create GIS databases for planning, decision making process for any problem that do exist on space, on the surface of the earth, where human and natural problem which does arises due to certain activities that can be solved. That the data which we create in a GIS environment by using different sources of data, different techniques, how it can be used for solving, addressing the issues and the problems that do exist in any part of surface of the earth. So my dear students, we are trying to understand GIS database creation, how to create GIS databases. We all know GIS. We commonly use to listen GIS. So let me tell you in a couple of lines what is GIS. GIS is nothing but is a computer based software which is very powerful tool to analyze, manipulate, assess the problem which are there in space. To understand, analyze the problems, we need to have a data. Now the moment I say data, I will explain what is data. Let us see how we can create a data. So any data cannot be used in a software, in a computer software. For that you need to have a software data, a data which is compatible to a particular software. So for that you need to create a data, and therefore today's module is a GIS database creation. Now let us try to understand what is a data. Data is nothing but is anything which represents a particular feature which are there on a particular part of surface of the earth. Say for example, if I say data could be in a form of number, for example population, if I say 1000 population, 1 lakhs of population or 1 million of population, this is a data. Now if I say data could be also represented in the form of some textual, say for example if I write 1000 population in text, so that becomes a data. Say for example if I say data, we are trying to understand what is data, then we go to GIS data. If I say data could be in the form of numbers, if I say 1000 people, 10,000 people or 1 million people. So what we have, that becomes a data. So this could be in the form of number. If I say data, that could be in the form of text. For example, if I write 1000 population, this is a data that represents 1000 population. I can write like this, this could be in number, this could be in text. The third is data could be in the form of symbol. So what we have, data could be in the form of like this. If I make like this, so this could be a tree. If I make it like this, this could be a church. If I make it like this, this could be something, a temple, something like that, and so and so. Or if I make like this, so these are the grasses. So if I put these symbol in a particular part of surface of the earth, we can say how many, if we count it, then I can say how many particular tree or church or temple is there in a particular part of the earth. So this is another way of representing a data. So I was trying to give a glimpse of the data. Now we need to understand database creation in the GIS or GIS database creation. So figure 1 clearly shows different component of GIS database creation. In that, the very first is hardware. second is a software, third is a hardware and software both, then fourth is the system or user, where both hardware and software are being integrated and being used by a user like we and you. Okay? And the next is the data, for which I was talking here. What is the data? Now these are the broad component: hardware, software, people, data, and both hardware and software together. So these are the broad component of database creation that can be clearly seen in figure 1. Now we need to know what are different types of data. Different types of data, especially in the GIS domain. So in broad categories there are two types of data. One data is called vector data and second is raster data. So by now we understand what is the data. Now vector data and raster data, these are two broad categories of spatial data which we commonly use in GIS software. So the moment we say the vector data is nothing but is a point, line or area. Say it is a point, line or area which separates one feature, one object from another. Say for example, if I put a point like this, I can put a point like square, I can put a point like circle. Okay. So these 3 point symbols represent a particular feature, right? Similarly, if I say the line could be like this, or line could be like this, or line could be like this. So there is one entity here, this side, another entity on the other side of the line, A or B, which separate two different features. Now third is a polygon. We can have n number of polygons which separates one polygon, one feature, another polygon, another feature. What does it mean? If I have a soil type A, we can polygonize and say this is soil A, soil B, or alluvial soil, black soil and something like that. So vector data is nothing but is a data which is a discrete data which separates precisely one with another one. Now the moment I say raster data is not a discrete data, it is a continuous data. It is in continuity which is represented in a form of pixel or cell. Each cell has its own values. Each cell has its own value. Say for example, if I say cell 1, it may have a value of say 50, another could be 55, something like that. So each cell is independent to each other, whereas in the vector data these are not independent, but it is a big parcel which. So what we have? Raster data and vector data. So if you see figure 2 clearly shows the vector data and real data, raster data sorry, and the real world data. If I have a real world, say for example on a terrain, we have the water body here, we have the grasses here, we have the settlement here. So how we can represent it? So figure 2 clearly shows the real world below, then we have the raster data and the vector data. That gives you a clear understanding. So there are different advantages and disadvantages of vector data and raster data. Now our topic is GIS database creation. This is the point which we are trying to understand. For a GIS database, we use both vector data and raster data both for creating a GIS data layer. So what we have seen from figure 2 that in the bottom we have the real world, then we have the vector data and the raster data. If you see the figure 2, what we have? The water bodies, marshes, grasses like this. So what we have? if you represent the vector data, it will be a separate polygon, each representing a particular feature. But if we see on the top of it, what we have all these features represented in different color in a grid form. So that is a raster data. So these are the two broad categories for which we have advantages and disadvantages both. When we want to use the vector data, when we want to use the raster data. I will come to the creation little later, but let us understand all these technicalities the issue before going to the database creation. If we want to separate one field with another, if you want to separate a particular forest with another forest, you have to have a vector data. If you want to separate one land parcel with another land parcel, you have to have a vector data. But if you want to have a continuous features analysis, then we have to have a raster data. For any GIS analysis, you have to have a vector data, get it converted to raster data, then you can go only for modeling, otherwise you cannot have the raster. So the moment we put all these cells polygons get converted to cells, what we are seeing in the figure 2. So what we have in the vector and raster, both has advantage, disadvantage. What we do, we may convert raster data into vector data, and from vector to raster, both we do analysis. Now you can ask, okay, when we use the vector data, when we have to use the raster data. That precisely depend upon your nature of the query, nature of your problem. Now, what GIS database creation, there are different important issues that is there. One is data management. Second is data manipulation. Third is data analysis. Fourth is query, and fifth is visualization. So what we have, GIS database analysis, database creation includes data management, data manipulation. The manipulation, I mean, if you want to change one to another, say for example, if this pixel has a certain value, maybe 50, this is 55. If you want to change it, why? Because you want to emphasize certain particular feature, and if you want to suppress certain feature, then you need to change the digital number of particular raster data. For that, we do manipulation. Analysis means by involving different data layers, more than 1 or 3, 4, 5 data layers, we can go for analyzing certain problem. Query, if you want to build a query, say for example, if you want to do site suitability analysis, where all the particular soil is, where all a particular kind of forest type is there, where all we can perform a particular human or economic activity. For that, if you want to have a suitable site, so for that you can go for query. And visualization, that means what we have, if we want to see what all we do, management, manipulation and query and all, obviously it has to come in the form of output. And when we say in the form of output, in the form of map. So what all analysis and query building what we are doing in a software, that has to come in the form of printout, and that can be seen on the computer screen, or that will come as a print format. That document can be used for planning, decision making process. So therefore visualization. So before going to final printout, we can keep on changing, manipulating our result, modifying our result, seeing on the screen, and then finally we go for printout that can be in a common domain for better understanding and usable, that can be usable by different people. Now let us understand what are different sources of data. So the sources of data, if I say sources of data, there are two sources. One is primary sources and second is secondary sources of data. Now the moment I say primary sources of data, that means we can go to the field and collect the data by surveying, and that data, socio-economic data, physical data, all these data can be used as a primary source of data, that can be used for GIS database creation. We can go to household survey, we can ask the people ki what is your dietary habit, what is your age, what is your sex, what is your annual income, what is the health of your family people, what is the profile of people and the family of your family health profile. So, all these data can be a primary data, and those surveyed data can be put in a GIS platform, and we can create a data that becomes a GIS database. Now, secondary source of data, say for example, we can take the census data. The census data which is in published form, which is in published by Census of India, decade wise, yearly and so, all those data can be used as a secondary source of data for GIS database creation, especially demographic or other socio-economic profile data. Now, these data sources which we are collecting, whether primary or secondary, in a form of numerical values, all these data can be called as or is called as attribute data. Attribute data. Attribute data. Why attribute data? Because if I take any part or surface of the earth, say for example this is Delhi or Mumbai, if I go and ask something here, okay, what is your income, what is your family profile and so, if I go and ask a particular house, we can get the data from here and all. So, similarly, if we survey any ward or districts, what we have the data of socio-economic data of each and every ward, and in long term we can have a data of whole of the city or area, and that data is a primary data, or the same data if we get it from the published data from any other sources, that becomes a secondary data. Now, how it becomes a GIS database? The moment I plot all these data in a form of, say like this, Crowthorpe map or chorochromatic map or something like that. So, what will happen? It get attached to the particular part of surface of the earth. So, as a attribute data, it get converted into GIS data, and therefore, what we get? GIS data base. So, as of now or till some years from now, maybe a couple of decades from now, what we used to have? We used to have a GIS database mainly from the primary and secondary sources. Say for example, topo sheet. We put it in a computer software. How we do it? We have the data input, we will talk little later. Then we have the data from census that we get attached to the tehsil wise or village wise or block wise or ward wise, and we make it like this, a map like this. So, it becomes a GIS database. Now, what we have? We have the other spatial data, and that spatial data is a data from, as I said, the topo sheet, aerial photograph, satellite images. So, what we can say? Now, the data can be further classified into, GIS data can be classified into non-spatial data, and second is spatial data. So, non-spatial data, as I was talking to you, that these non-spatial data we get it from different organizations, agencies, ministries. This is a published form, which is in published form in a numerical form. So, that is a non-spatial data, and we also call it the attribute data, like what we have seen here. Now, spatial data, as I mentioned before, is a data which is in the form of paper, in the form of map, topo sheet data which is surveyed and made by Survey of India at a different scale, at a scale of 1:25,000, 1:50,000, 1:250,000, 1:even million. All these data are classified into spatial databases, and that data can be used as a creating a database for a particular part of the surface of the earth. Now, other spatial data sources is a satellite data from various sensors, aerial photographs, aerial photos, and so and so. So, what we do is, we do have a special software for handling or for analyzing satellite data or aerial photograph. After analyzing and handling in a particular image processing software, what we do is we also create a particular database. Now, after understanding all these issues, let us understand what are different methods, what are different techniques, or how do we create a database. So, let us talk about method and techniques of creating a database, GIS database. So, to understand and to know precisely how GIS database is created. So, if we use any non-spatial spatial data, as I said that these are the GIS is a computer based software which is powerful tool for handling and analyzing the spatial problems. So, the data is in print form in a census booklet, data is in the form of, say for example, maps, data is in the form of satellite which are or aerial photograph which are there separately. So, how it should come? So, it should come through various inputs. So, let us know what are different inputs through which data can be put inside a software on a GIS platform. So, there are different ways. One is by scanning. If we have a scanner attached to a computer, we scan, it will come in a GIS domain, and then we convert into GIS analysis portable format. For that, there is another lecture on that. We can give an input of spatial and non-spatial data. Say for example, the census data we can give through keyboards. So, scanning is one way of inputting the GIS database in a software. By keyboard is another way of inputting this data in a software. If you have a data on a CD or in a pen drive, so you can put and then import or copy and paste in a system. So, these are the different common ways through which the data can be put inside a GIS software. Now, there are different ways to create a GIS database, and I said that these are two broad categories of creation of vector data GIS database and raster data GIS based. So, for this we have different method. So, let us understand one by one how we can create a vector data and the raster data. If I take the raster data, which is most important, and for this we use the satellite data, As I said, these satellite data are geocoded, or if it is not geocoded, we need to geocode it, georeference it is the same, and then we can put in a GIS domain, and once we geocode or georeference, it truly represents a particular part of the surface of the earth. Similarly, if you have vector data or topo sheet, we import it, we scan it, put in a GIS format, and then we geocode it or georeference it. So, georeferencing means by using a precise datum, coordinate system and the coordinates. By using datum, projection system and coordinate, we georeference any topo sheet or map, and once we geocode it, georeference it, it truly represents a particular part of the surface of the earth for which it belongs to. So, what we have, once we do that, it becomes a GIS database. Now, to analyze and to draw any information, we can go both way, either we can vectorize it or rasterize it. For vectorization, we simply go for digitizing manually through different diagrams, different figure 3, 4, 5, 6. I am trying to explain you how we can create vector database or raster database. So, in continuation of GIS database creation, various method, raster database creation, I said scanning of maps and topo sheets and all. Second is image processing, that is by using satellite data. As I said that we need to use a particular software, digital image processing software, to create raster data by using digital satellite data, not the print format of satellite data. Second category is a vector data based creation, that can be done by manual digitization, on screen digitization, by using photographs, by geocoding, by using global positioning system or automated surveying. Now, if you see figure 4, which clearly shows there are two photographs in this figure 4, satellite images, right side and left side. If you see left side, that is raw satellite data, and if you see the right side of the figure 4, that is the extracted information from the satellite data of the left side. So, this is what we have by using the image processing. We have different classes of different line parser. Now, if you see figure 5, which is manual digitization, if you see this figure 5, there are two tables. On the left side we have the computer and software, and on the right side we have a table on which you see there is a map. On the map there is a tablet digitization is there. If you move that tablet on the lines or the features, it will take through this wire, it will create the data in the computer in the particular software. But this is a very old method that is not in use now. This is the starting of GIS. If you see figure 6, that is on screen hands up digitization. In this what we do is on the computer screen in a software, the image or the map is displayed and you keep on moving your cursor and extract the information as per your need and requirement, and then you get the vector data GIS database. If you see figure 7, that is geocoding, you see the different lines and points, you put the different points, different latitude and longitude in a particular place of your own interest and create a GIS database of your own interest by geocoding. This is another method of creation of GIS database. Now, figure 5 shows the GPS. In other modules you must have learned how we can collect the data of special features on a particular part of the surface of the earth by using the GPS technology. So, what we have, the figure 8 shows that there is a satellite and there is one car moving and you have installed a GPS in the car, and then you are collecting the data of particular feature at different interval. This is another way of creating spatial data that could be in a form of point, line or polygon. Now, the last figure 9 is very interesting, where we are using, you will see in the figure that there is a total station that combines with the theodolite with electronic distance measurement EDMs that calculates the distance, which is the most sophisticated instrument in order to create GIS databases. So, to summarize today's lecture, I do hope that you must have understood very well what is GIS, what are the GIS databases, what are the GIS sources. In this module, we have tried to address the different sources of data, primary sources of data, secondary sources of data, aerial photographs, satellite data, and these satellite data and aerial photograph at a different scale, different resolution. We do have understood by now what are different data types, vector data, raster data, what are different vector data, what are different raster data, how we can use for each and every problems, what kind of data do we need to have, what are different softwares which we use for GIS analysis, what are different components of GIS database creation, what are different techniques and method. So, by and large in today's lecture we have covered very well in this lecture. I do hope understand that you must have got detail and glimpse of it, and if anything remains, that you can also further clarify understood by reading the text which is uploaded on the website. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding.